Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another Champions of the Continent video. In today's video, I wanted to create a new updated tier list for the 5-star characters that are currently in the game. And so when I created my first tier list, the game hadn't been released yet, and there were many characters that I had not played in the JP version that I've been able to play now, and it's totally changed my perspective on what they can offer in terms of, battling, stats, damage. So this is my new updated tier list, and I just want to preference before I get started that this is just my own personal opinion and my own thoughts on the tier list that I'm about to create. So everybody has different thoughts, everybody has different feelings. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. So I'll just dive right in and we can have a discussion, down below. All right, so first Lynette, I think it's pretty obvious, but S tier. She is, the best offensive buffer that we have. She has very long longevity, and she's got fire, that has multi-hits and AoE. I think she's just like the whole package, and she's never really going to get old in terms of gameplay. And so Mylar, I think C tier. The thing is that he is really good at what he does, but he just lacks, he can't really like target down shields. He only has, those one-hit attacks, and he does have burst healing, but there's a certain character on here that has not been announced yet, but is going to be coming out soon, who basically does what he does better, but she's just not a cleric. And more to come on that in a bit. All right, Viola, no brainer, S tier. Queen of debuffs. She can chip away at shield points, even if the enemy isn't weak to dagger with her 5-star attack. She's fast. She debilitates enemies very strongly, and the whole community is probably on board with these two in the S tier. They just have so much utility and support that their longevity is incredibly long. So Sophia, I'm gonna put A tier. She is ice. She can nuke. She also lowers ice resistance on characters that she hits. So she's limited to ice, but that's no biggie, because even if the bosses or enemies aren't weak to ice, once they're broken, they're kind of in a way weak to everything. It's not going to hit as harder as an element that it's actually weak to, but she does lower that resistance, and all around just a good character. All right, Gilderoy. This really pains me, but I think with Trussa, and I think just with his kit in general, I'm gonna have to put D tier. This is not saying that he is a bad character. I don't like any character who is low on this list is not a bad character. I'm just looking at in terms of currently what we have in the game, and I am looking a little bit ahead, but it's kind of hard because, as we can see, nothing that we're getting released in global is being released from JP's timeline, so it's kind of hard to determine what's coming up. But Trussa is here, she's out, and I just think that she definitely is the better merchant, and I do think that she is the better tank. She can dodge physical attacks, and she still taunts, and when she taunts, she's buffing the whole party, whereas Gilderoy, I believe when he taunts, he's only just buffing himself. It's a good buff because it's his defenses that he's buffing, but I just think that Trussa does everything better that Gilderoy does. All right, Scarecrow, definitely A tier. I had him at the bottom of the list in my first tier list just because of his lack of utility, but his damage, he puts out numbers. He has strong AoE. Just overall, he can buff his crit, and I just think that with the damage that he can output, even if the boss is not weak to bows, I think it's just too good, and I think the community has come around to really embracing him, and I have too. My opinion on him in the beginning was definitely wrong, and I think that he's in terms of damage, just much better than I thought, and I think a lot of us thought. All right, Theo, my favorite character, A. He has really good damage output, at least mine does. I know I have him awakened to level 3, and I have a rune axe equipped on him right now, but I just think that he is putting out numbers, and his regen, as I think a lot of us are aware at this point now, regen is super important, and it helps like a ton with battles. He can also buff up wind defense, which was really only helpful in the Master of Wealth storyline, but nonetheless, if a boss, suddenly has a wind damage, maybe in like tourneys and in the future, it's really going to come in handy. His lightning output is kind of irrelevant, but it does help if you're only bringing him to a fight for regen and the boss happens to be weak to lightning and not axes, for instance, then he's got that covered as well. All right, Fiora. I'm going to put S tier. Again, just like with Scarecrow in my first tier list video, I had her at the bottom because of lack of utility, but she's just strong as hell. She puts out numbers just like Scarecrow does, probably even more. She's got a sword attack that hits at three times, so she can chip away at sword weaknesses, and yeah, I think she's gonna get outclassed in the future. She's a victim of that. But if you didn't pull for Corin, and maybe there's some warriors coming up that you're not going to pull for, she can just be your cover for that. And I also have used her dark magic attack, and I found it really handy, especially with the battle tested fights. The one that's weak to dark. So she's an interesting character, and outside of her sword attacks, I was surprised to find her dark magic attacks helpful. But yeah, I think she's really good. In Trussa, I'm going to put in the A tier. She is a dodge tank for physical attacks. I find her wind attacks really helpful, and when she taunts enemies, she buffs the front row's party physical attack. So if you have your front row with like a hunter and a warrior, another merchant, then she's buffing their physical attacks, and those are obviously the physical attackers. And so yeah, I think all around well-rounded character, and she donates BP, which is like incredible. It's like a rare ability in this game, and she's the only one currently that I know of. I don't know if any 4-stars do it, but she can donate her BP, and that comes really in handy with the battle tested weapons too, because for me, I didn't bring like 4 or 8 clerics to one fight. I probably brought 4 and just had utility outside of that. So when she donates her BP to Mylar, and then he just crushes the enemy with his staff attacks, I just think it all just comes really well in handy. All right, Heathcote, I'm going to put A tier. Biggest reason why I'm putting him in A tier is because he can chip away at shield points no matter what. He was an easy skip for me, but I think that because when you consider it right now, Viola is the only other one who can do that. So he has more attacks that does that chip away at shield points even if they're not weak to it. So he has that niche for now, but he will definitely unfortunately drop off in the future. But for now, definitely A tier. All right, and Therese, I'm going to put C tier. She's really strong lightning user and has AoE, but she doesn't debuff their lightning resistance like Sophia debuffs enemies' ice resistance, and AoE is always going to be a little bit weaker than single target attacks. So while I think that she's a really good lightning user, she just kind of suffers in that damage department, and that just my opinion. That's I skipped her. I had her in JP, never found her very useful. I would bring her to lightning weakness fights, but now I just have so many other characters that I would bring before considering her. All right, and Primrose. This one is a little tough for me. I think I'm gonna go S tier. So she can buff just like Lynette does. She can buff attack, defense, magic, speed. She can do it all. The only thing that kind of is tricky is that she has a buff for attack and defense, and then another ability that is for attack, magic, and speed. So 2 different buffs, but I think that she is just well-rounded in that aspect. Her and Lynette are so similar, but Lynette's special that comes in the future is just too good. And Primrose is good as well, but I find them very similar, and Primrose can chip away with fan and dark damage for an enemy's weakness, and Lynette does the same thing for fan and fire. So they're very similar, different elements, but I really firmly believe that Primrose is S tier, and low-key between you and me, I had to pity her, but I didn't mind. I think that she was like totally worth it, and I think she's gonna have really good longevity for the future. All right, now Corin. I do not have Corin. I've never used Corin. I know that he can put out numbers in the future, I did not pull for him. He's got red mage vibes from, if you're familiar with the Final Fantasy series, he's got good magic and good attack. But I do hope I get him on like an off pull at some point, and I'm gonna put him in the A tier just because of that. I've seen somebody posted on Reddit how much damage he was doing. It was obviously in JP much further in the future, but the numbers were super impressive. So I think, like I said in my should you pull video for him, I was just on the fence about using rubies for him, but he definitely puts out numbers, and if you pull him in the future, build him, because he will come in handy 100%. All right, now Hasumi. She is not released, but she will be released very soon. She's a 5-star dancer. I will have a should you pull video for her either tomorrow or on Sunday at the timing of this of filming this. But she is so she's a dancer obviously, but she is a healer. She buffs defenses. She has multiple hit light attacks. She's very an all-around type of character. The reason why I'm about to put her in S tier, and I know people are going to come for me in the comments, but I personally think she outclasses Mylar because she has that full frontal AoE heal, which Mylar does too. But Hasumi has multi-hit light attacks, whereas Mylar does not. She also buffs defenses, which is something that Primrose and Lynette currently do not do. And yeah, she's like an all-rounder. And so, I was kind of thinking between S and A tier, but I do think that she is an S tier for sure. I'm sure she's going to fall off in the future, but for right now, especially with how like chaotic this release schedule is for the 5-star characters that we're getting, I think that she is a good investment, especially if you did not pull Primrose and if you skipped her completely. I think Hasumi can be applicable to any party because of that heal and buffs that she does. So she can hang out in the back row until you need her in the front row, and she's got a really rare chance ability to gain 1 BP if she takes damage. So it is a chance, but this is my tier list and just my opinion. So I'm gonna put her in S tier. So what do you guys think? I would love to have a conversation around this tier list, and I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on what you agree or what you disagree with. I think tier lists are very subjective, and I'm sure my tier lists are kind of always evolving. Like I said, I never played with Corin before, so I don't know what he's like in battle and when you built him up and like the different strategies that you come up with. And I've never used Hasumi either. I just see her on paper, and I've seen her in videos like on YouTube and stuff, so I know her kind of how people have been using her with and their own accounts. But so these are just my thoughts. Thank you so much, as always. I can't express that enough, how grateful I am for everybody who watches my videos, subscribes, and likes. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.